The lie you've been sold is that hard work equals success, that putting in more hours and more effort will inevitably lead to wealth and power. And you've believed it so completely that you're confused when it doesn't happen, when the hardest workers you know are still struggling, while people who seem to do less somehow accumulate more. The uncomfortable truth is that hard work, divorced from strategic thinking, is often the very thing keeping you trapped. It's the prison you've willingly entered, the hamster wheel you run on with pride, the virtue you've weaponized against your own advancement. Because while you're busy working yourself to exhaustion, while you're focused on inputs and effort and hours logged, the people accumulating actual power and wealth are thinking differently. They're not asking how to work harder. They're asking how to work less while extracting more value, how to leverage systems rather than becoming part of them, how to position themselves where money and power flow to them rather than chase it through sheer effort. The devastating realization is that your work ethic, your dedication, your willingness to grind, the very things you've been told are your greatest assets, might be the exact qualities keeping you powerless. And until you understand why hard work alone is a trap, until you grasp the mechanics of how wealth and power actually accumulate, you'll keep running faster on that wheel while wondering why you're still in the same place. The deception of trading time for money. The fundamental structure that keeps hard workers poor is the direct exchange of time for money, the hourly wage or salary model, where your income is capped by the hours you can physically work. This model is presented as fair, as honest compensation for honest work, but it's actually a cleverness trap that ensures you can never accumulate significant wealth or power no matter how hard you work. The math is brutal. There are only so many hours you can work. Only so much you can charge per hour before you price yourself out. Only so much you can increase efficiency within the time for money framework. The psychology of time for money exchange involves accepting a frame where you are the product being sold by the hour, where your value is measured in increments of your life traded for increments of currency. This frame seems reasonable because it's ubiquitous, because everyone else is doing it, because you can point to the direct correlation between effort and payment. But this reasonableness is exactly what makes it insidious. You're working within a system designed to extract maximum value from your effort while ensuring you never accumulate enough to escape the system. Emotionally, trading time for money creates a false sense of security and fairness. You worked X hours, you get X dollars. It feels transparent, earnable, within your control. But this feeling is a trap because it prevents you from seeing that the entire structure is designed to benefit those who own the systems you're working within, not those providing the labor. Your hard work is making someone else wealthy while ensuring you remain dependent on trading your time to survive. The people who escape poverty understand that time for money is the starting point, not the end goal. They use employment to generate capital and skills, but they're always thinking about how to transition from selling time to selling products, systems, or leverage that aren't capped by their personal hours. They recognize that wealth accumulates when you can generate value without your direct involvement, when money works for you rather than you working for money, when systems operate on your behalf while you sleep. The hard worker trapped in time for money thinks the solution is to work more hours, to get a second job, to increase hustle. But this is trying to solve a structural problem with effort, which is impossible. The structure caps you regardless of effort. You can work yourself to death and still be poor because the model itself prevents wealth accumulation. The breakthrough comes from rejecting the model entirely, from refusing to accept that trading time for money is the only or best option, from recognizing that this structure serves capital, not labor. The insidious aspect of the time for money trap is how it creates the illusion of control and fairness. You feel like you're in control because you can choose to work more hours or negotiate higher rates. But this control is illusory because you're still operating within a framework that mathematically prevents wealth accumulation. Even at high hourly rates, you're still capped by time, still one injury or illness away from zero income, still unable to scale beyond your personal capacity. The system gives you just enough agency to feel responsible for your outcomes, while structurally ensuring those outcomes remain limited. The illusion of merit-based advancement. Hard workers often believe that their effort will be recognized and rewarded through promotion and advancement, that competence and dedication automatically translate to rising through hierarchies. This belief is catastrophically naive. Most hierarchies reward political skill, strategic positioning, and the ability to claim credit far more than they reward actual competence or hard work. While you're working hard, others are working smart, managing perceptions, building alliances, positioning themselves for opportunities that your head-down grinding prevents you from even seeing. The psychology of meritocracy belief involves trusting that systems are fair, that hard work is visible and valued, that good work speaks for itself. This trust is exploited mercilessly by those who understand that advancement is more about visibility, positioning, and politics than about actual competence. They understand that being seen working is more valuable than actually working, that claiming credit is more important than earning it, that managing upward is more rewarded than managing downward or doing excellent work that no one attributes to you. Emotionally, believing in meritocracy while experiencing its absence creates profound cognitive dissonance. You're working harder than people who are advancing faster. You're more competent than your boss. You're producing more value than colleagues who get promoted over you. This dissonance usually resolves in one of two destructive ways. Either you blame yourself for not working hard enough, driving yourself to even more futile effort, or you become bitter and resentful, which poisons your relationships and ensures you definitely won't advance. The people who rise understand that merit is necessary but insufficient. They ensure their work is visible to decision makers. They build relationships with people who control opportunities. They learn to communicate their value rather than assuming it will be recognized. They understand that advancement is a game with specific rules, and working hard while ignoring those rules is choosing to lose while feeling virtuous about your ignorance. Hard workers often have contempt for organizational politics, viewing it as beneath them or corrupt. This contempt is a luxury they cannot afford. Politics is simply the mechanism by which resources and positions are allocated in human hierarchies. Refusing to engage with it while expecting advancement is like refusing to learn the rules of chess while expecting to win tournaments. Your moral superiority about staying above politics keeps you below those who understand that politics is just another skill to master. The meritocracy illusion also prevents hard workers from recognizing when they're being exploited through false promises. Organizations learn quickly which employees will work harder in exchange for vague promises of future advancement. These employees are incredibly valuable because they provide maximum effort for minimum compensation, motivated by the belief that their hard work is being noticed and will be rewarded. Meanwhile, the organization has no intention of rewarding them beyond what's necessary to keep them motivated. The hard work itself is the goal, not a path to advancement. The trap of increased responsibility without increased ownership. As hard workers demonstrate competence, they're typically rewarded with more responsibility, more difficult tasks, more critical projects. This feels like progress, like recognition, like advancement. But if this increased responsibility comes without increased ownership, without equity, without profit sharing, without actual stake in outcomes, it's exploitation disguised as opportunity. You're being given more work because you've proven you'll do it well, not because it serves your interests, but because it serves the interests of those who own the outcomes of your labor. The psychology of responsibility without ownership involves feeling valued because you're trusted with important work, feeling accomplished because you're handling complex challenges, feeling recognized because you're given high stakes projects. These feelings mask the reality that you're being used more intensively without being compensated proportionally. The satisfaction of responsibility is being substituted for the material benefits of ownership, and you're accepting this trade because the ego rewards feel immediate while the material costs accumulate slowly. Emotionally, taking on increased responsibility without ownership creates a cycle where you must work harder to justify the responsibility you've accepted, which leaves you less time and energy to build actual ownership elsewhere. You become increasingly invested in systems you don't own, increasingly dependent on recognition from people who are extracting value from your effort, increasingly trapped by the responsibilities you've accepted that prevent you from pursuing ownership opportunities. The people who build wealth understand the difference between responsibility and ownership. They're willing to accept responsibility only when it comes with corresponding ownership or is clearly a stepping stone to ownership. They recognize that working hard within systems they don't own is building someone else's wealth, not their own. They focus on creating or acquiring ownership stakes, even small ones, because ownership is what allows wealth accumulation, while responsibility alone just increases workload. The hard worker feels proud of being given more responsibility, of being the person the organization turns to for critical work, of being indispensable. But indispensability in a system you don't own is just another form of being trapped. You're too valuable doing what you're doing to be allowed to do something different. Your competence has created a cage where you're needed exactly where you are, which prevents movement toward actual wealth accumulation through ownership. This trap is particularly insidious because it feels like progress. You're climbing, you're advancing in responsibility and complexity of work, but you're climbing a ladder that leads nowhere, advancing in ways that make you more valuable to the organization while not increasing your actual wealth or power. The organization benefits from your increased capacity and willingness to handle complexity, while you benefit from feelings of importance that don't translate to material improvement in your circumstances. The energy and time depletion that prevents strategic action. Perhaps the most insidious way hard work keeps you poor is by depleting your energy and consuming your time to the point where you cannot engage in the strategic thinking and action that would actually change your circumstances. When you're exhausted from working 60-hour weeks, you don't have the mental bandwidth to learn new skills, to build side ventures, to think strategically about positioning. Your hard work has eliminated the very resources, energy, time, cognitive capacity that you need to escape the hard work trap. The psychology of depletion involves a narrowing of focus onto immediate survival and execution. When you're depleted, you think in the short term, you take the path of least resistance. You stick with what's familiar because you lack the energy for risk or innovation. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where hard work depletes you. Depletion prevents strategic action. Lack of strategic action means you must continue hard work to survive, which continues depleting you. Emotionally, chronic depletion feels like being trapped in survival mode, where you can see better options but can't access the energy to pursue them. You know you should be learning that skill, starting that project, building that network, but you're too tired, too stretched, too consumed by immediate demands. This awareness of better paths you can't take because you're too depleted from walking the current path creates a special kind of frustration and hopelessness. The people who escape this cycle understand that protecting energy and time for strategic work is more important than maximizing immediate income or effort. They're willing to work less hard at their current thing to preserve capacity for building the next thing. They recognize that marginal increases in effort within their current situation produce marginal returns, while strategic effort toward new situations can produce exponential returns. They guard their energy and time as the scarce resources they are. Hard workers often take pride in their exhaustion, wearing depletion as a badge of honor that proves their work ethic and dedication. But this pride is a trap. The exhaustion that proves you're working hard is the same exhaustion that prevents you from working smart. The depleted state you're proud of is exactly the state that keeps you trapped in needing to work hard because you can't access the energy for strategic action that would make hard work unnecessary. The shift required is counterintuitive. Sometimes you must work less hard in the short term to preserve capacity for the work that actually changes your situation in the long term. This feels irresponsible to the hard worker, like slacking, like not giving maximum effort. But it's actually the only responsible path because maximum effort within a system designed to keep you poor just means you're efficiently running toward a destination you don't want to reach. Depletion also affects decision-making quality in ways that perpetuate poverty. When you're exhausted, you make worse financial decisions, you're more susceptible to scams and bad deals, you're less able to negotiate effectively, you're more likely to take whatever is offered rather than holding out for better terms. This degraded decision-making compounds over time, creating a trail of suboptimal choices that seem individually small but collectively keep you trapped. The hard work that depletes you is directly causing the poor decisions that keep you poor. The psychological conditioning that serves capital, not labor. The deepest reason hard work keeps you poor is that the entire cultural narrative around hard work is designed to serve those who own capital by ensuring a motivated, compliant, self-sacrificing labor force. You've been conditioned from childhood to believe that hard work is virtuous, that effort equals results, that dedication is rewarded. These beliefs make you a better employee, a more reliable worker, a more exploitable resource. They serve the system, not you. The psychology of work ethic conditioning involves internalizing values that benefit employers while disadvantaging employees. When you believe hard work is inherently virtuous, you'll work hard even when it doesn't serve your interests. When you believe dedication should be rewarded, you'll keep dedicating yourself even when rewards don't come. When you believe complaining about exploitation is being entitled, you'll accept exploitation rather than challenge it. All of these beliefs make you a better cog in machines that enrich others. Emotionally, this conditioning creates guilt and shame around anything other than maximum effort. Taking time off feels irresponsible. Working less than you could feels like cheating. Prioritizing your interests over your employer's feels selfish. These emotional responses keep you compliant with your own exploitation because you've internalized the exploiter's values as moral truths rather than recognizing them as conditioning designed to serve specific interests. The people who build wealth often have different relationships with work. They see it instrumentally rather than morally, as a means to an end rather than an end in itself. They work when it serves their goals and refuse work when it doesn't. They feel no guilt about this because they haven't internalized the moral framework that equates effort with virtue. They understand that the work ethic narrative is propaganda designed to benefit capital, and they refuse to be controlled by it. Breaking this conditioning requires recognizing that the values you've internalized around hard work serve someone else's interests more than your own. The employer who benefits from your unpaid overtime is the one who benefits from you believing that going above and beyond is virtuous. The system that accumulates wealth by extracting surplus value from your labor is the system that benefits from you believing your dedication should be limitless. Your conditioning isn't helping you. It's helping those who exploit your labor. The difficult truth is that many of the qualities you've been taught to be proud of, your work ethic, your dedication, your willingness to sacrifice, are exactly the qualities that keep you exploitable. They're virtues in the service of someone else's wealth accumulation. And until you're willing to question these internalized values, to recognize that working hard is a tool to be deployed strategically rather than a moral imperative to be followed blindly, you'll keep using that tool to build someone else's empire while remaining poor and powerless yourself. This conditioning runs so deep that even recognizing it triggers defensive reactions. The suggestion that hard work isn't inherently virtuous feels like an attack on your identity, on your values, on everything you've built your self-respect around. This defensiveness is itself evidence of how thoroughly the conditioning has worked. You're defending beliefs that harm you because those beliefs have become inseparable from your sense of self. Breaking free requires the painful work of separating your identity from your conditioning, of recognizing that you can have standards and integrity without subscribing to a work ethic that serves exploitation. The cultural mythology around hard work is filled with stories of people who worked their way from nothing to wealth through dedication and effort. These stories are survivorship bias presented as blueprint. For every person who worked hard and became wealthy, there are millions who worked just as hard and remained poor. The difference wasn't work ethic. It was opportunity, timing, leverage, strategic thinking, or luck. But the mythology focuses on work ethic, because that's what serves the system. If workers believe that hard work alone leads to wealth, they'll keep working hard even when it clearly doesn't, blaming themselves rather than the system when wealth doesn't materialize. The escape from hard work as trap requires a complete reorientation from effort-based thinking to leverage-based thinking, from time-based value to system-based value, from believing harder work is the answer to recognizing that working hard within structures designed to keep you poor is the problem. This doesn't mean laziness. It means strategic redirection of effort toward building ownership, toward creating systems, toward developing leverage that allows you to escape trading time for money. It means recognizing that the hardest working people are often the poorest, not despite their work ethic, but because of it, because that work ethic is being deployed within structures that ensure it benefits everyone except the worker. The moment you stop measuring success by effort and start measuring it by results, by leverage, by ownership, everything changes. You stop being proud of exhaustion and start being strategic about energy. You stop seeking more responsibility in systems you don't own and start building ownership in systems you create or control. You stop believing hard work will save you and start recognizing that hard work, without strategic thinking and structural awareness, is exactly what keeps you trapped in poverty and powerlessness, while those who work less but think more accumulate the wealth and power you're working so hard to achieve.